PR Connections Radio presents.
Did you know your clothing could help balance your body's pH levels? Our cutting-edge fabric technology naturally promotes optimal pH balance, helping you feel energized, refreshed, and at your best every day. Use promo code PRTalk for more info. Tap the link in the description or contact our experts at 702-445-9488 to learn more.
Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Liberating Menopause. I'm your host, Lisa Vasquez. Thank you for joining prconnectionsradio.com. This is very awesome streaming to bring my conversation to life, my vision, my hopes and dreams for our future as women in the workplace. So today, this episode, we're talking about the hidden cost. Does anybody really think about the hidden costs when you're applying for a job, or even when you're in college and actually preparing to take the courses that are needed for whatever your future is envisioned into, whatever that job may be. And maybe it's just sitting down, maybe it's going to be reading prompters, maybe it's going to be mechanical, a lot of body movements. But is that ever really taken into account when you're defining what that future? Because what I like teaching is that long-term vision. Women have taught me my whole life. They've given me a 30-year advanced look of what the future for me could look like when I'm 20 and they were 50. So by understanding this and bringing it to you in conversations that I have with women, it's never really been suggested that, the preparations that were taken for that job were prepared in the way of your ergonomics, your mechanics, your body mechanics, how all this is going to account for in your health. As you say, there's lots of women that actually stay in a position for the whole 30 years because they're just that comfortable with the job, loving it, growing, developing, and, having advancements. And this is wonderful. But again, thinking about that long term. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. But first, when I was last talking to you, I was giving statistics about, different numbers in obesity with overweight, health problems, diabetes, different things that we're facing as challenges. And while we're in the workplace, and I did tap on something, but I needed more statistics because I had forgot. So I want to really bring that back up, that back in 1990, we had ranked as the 18th strongest in life expectancy. Now, this was in comparison to 21 industrialized nations. So with this big comparisons, by 2008, we became 47th. The 47th, we were no longer in good rankings. We're starting to, develop into a lot of degenerative disease, a lot of more health and sick care in the healthcare. So 97.3% of people barely are not taken care of and doing a lot of healthy habits that are, just generalized. So this leads to a lot of different health challenges that we develop in the workplace and without, just living life and choices and things that we make on food, on lifestyle. And so today, when we dive into this, I want to talk about, because it's not so much the years of our life that we're having concern about. We're looking for that quality of life, because that's not a challenge and an opportunity that we've had in the past with our other generations. Because if we had, we wouldn't be so degenerate right now as far as how our health is taking place, how we're shifting, how the food has affected us, how our lifestyle and technology has affected us as far as our sleep habits and different things like that. So, we're constantly we need to start really considering that long-term health. And how is it going to look when you do exit this job, depending? After 45 years in my career, I have to tell you, and I'm going to take you back to day one, because here I am, a radiology tech. I'm going to school, right? My schooling was based in a clinical hospital setting. So the program was there. So I had a lot of hands-on clinical practice. We had of course, book theories, but that clinical practice, you were engaged from day one as a student. And so now I'm getting closer to that senior year. It's a 2-year program, and you're getting closer to actually know that you're coming into this phase. Well, let me say this first. I'm so sorry. 19. Well, I was a junior in high school. I have to take you back to that because that's where they really gave me that long-term vision. My English teacher had us all do a paper. This paper consisted of what did we think we wanted to be when we grew up? What were we focusing on? And he wanted us to learn that Dewey system in the library, going into the drawer, pulling out index cards, reading things. So going through that practice manually in the library was the whole goal, but really to dig into the future and talk about what that job would look like. So here I am, and I'm already focusing on radiology. So I went to go see what X-ray techs need to do. And so then it told me light typing, and it had said, you're going to be lifting weight, lifting certain amount of poundage in this business. And, the light typing was a good thing. And then you had to look statistically at how long before that field would become saturated, because of course he didn't want us to be entering into something that the field is about to close, or as like today, we're having a lot of close down because technology has taken over. Well, this is 1978, and that saturation would take place in 2015, where the industry would be overflowing now and jobs would be pretty much filled in. And all the other people that are coming in from school, graduating, coming into this X-ray program would have to have challenges as far as getting the opportunities to come into the field, because long-term wise, once technologists are usually in position and having a good job, they usually sit there until it's pretty much the door opens to really retire. So this is what I faced and seen throughout my career. But now I'll take you back to that X-ray student. Now I did get into X-ray school. I did go through the program. And the one thing that I looked at, and I'm sorry to say, but as you know, this is back in 1979 going into 80. And I'm under clinical guidance through instructors of technologists who are mature in this field, seniors, I guess you would call them. And literally, they were seniors. Now you have to picture me, I'm 20 years old, and I'm looking at this woman who is she's the charge person today. And as I seen that, I seen a lot of the wear and tear. I seen a lot of the aging process that took place. I seen a lot of this brokenness all within those minutes that I'm looking at this woman, because she is my charge person. But I looked up at her and I thought, I'm making a decision to walk into a field. I'm 20 years old. I decided this when I was 15. What did I know, right? And then I'm 18 now, getting into the field. But I really don't know long-term futures or what this all has to do with anything. But I do know that if I'm going into this field, I set my prayers, goals, dreams, and hopes and wishes that I'd get a second chance, because I did not want to come out the way I was visualizing the lifestyle and what this woman had to go through. That, the appearance was very visual. And honestly, I really did. I took those steps to ask for a bigger future, to create me something more than this would only be my stepping stone. So, that wish and prayer was granted. I must say prayer, because it is a blessing. And I was happy to know that I was able to navigate through this field. Women were my teachers every day. And then here I was 45 years later, but eventually I integrated health coaching and, specializing and becoming big with menopause and hormonal guidance, things of that nature. So that's where I am today. But when I was doing my work, now this is another thing that had to be considered, because in radiology, you do see all that disease and destruction, and you see the wear and tear, and you see people coming in, and you see carpal tunnel, frozen shoulders, tennis elbow, knee X-rays, ski accidents, unfortunately, motorcycle accidents. You see all the breaking. And of course, you want to do everything that is going to help you develop not to go into these roads. So as I'm working, there's a lot of repetition that comes into jobs. And I'm sure that if you're someone who sits down every day, you have that same repetition. You come to the office, you sit down, you pick up the phones, you're on the computer screen, repetition after repetition. And, different changes are occurring in your body. Well, in mine, it was a lot of hand clutching. It was a lot of grabbing cassettes, adjusting people, cranking machines, using my arm to adjust that machine, doing different structures with this upper part of the body, let alone, I'm always on my feet. So for that, I like that idea, the running around and things like that. But I was noticing the increase in shoulder work and things like that. And this is a long period of time in my life being in radiology before technology came to save me. So I started practicing and using my left hand because I didn't want to keep using that right arm. I didn't want to run into things that I'm seeing in the department and in the healthcare system with, history of other senior techs that I'm working with, and, the swollen ankles, the breakdown, the lymphatic systems breaking down, just all kinds of different things. You see it all. This is why I bring this vision to you, because being in the in corporate world, or just in the workplace, not in a medical field, you wouldn't see these behind scenes. So as I developed through that life, I did do what I could to eliminate always using that right hand if I could. Unfortunately, for ultrasound people, when they come into that field, it's 30, pretty much 30 years that they'll be using one arm. And, I always wanted to do ultrasound, and I did get granted that opportunity for breast ultrasound. And that was pretty challenging because I had already been doing radiology for a long time. So to actually see how this works with one arm, and, I did it for a good 5-6 years, and it was great, a lot of fun, learned a lot, the study, everything about it. It was a great field to really add to enhance my qualities as a mammographer. But what I saw was the damage again because of the stretching, depending how sizes, how far your arm and shoulder would have to reach. So imagining ultrasound techs who do more with the whole body, big pregnancies, all these different things, that arm has to go up and down, extend, flex. I mean, so they have a lot of challenges when that happens. And if we don't start looking at what this challenge is going to do, especially for my younger generation, now we're coming into the idea that when I was understanding this, I was only preventing what I could see. But now technology kicked in for me, and this is just in time because my hands are really going. I mean, they were really getting ready to go. And so buttons started coming in. So now we're pushing buttons, and that made it a lot easier. You'd hit one button, but you still had to raise your arm. Machine would flip. So again, I'd hit that one button with the left arm, and then the machine would flip, and all these different technologies started to kick in, right? So that relieved my hand and a lot of stress. We were no longer using cassettes, so there was no more clutching and carrying heavy film. Now, there was just digital radiology has arrived. And then at the end, it turned into foot pedals also. So you can, use uh, push buttons or your foot as, a way to shoot that film instead of the clutching, as I was saying, the shooting. So this is what really protected me and saved me. I'm just happy that during my practice, I developed this. I did study with Tabar Laszlo. He's a big guy from Sweden, and he was a big godfather of America to teach us a lot in mammography and the study of women in mammography, breast health. He was he still is, but it was just a good guide. And the one thing I admired about him, because he was in Sweden, was that he actually had physical therapists who took care of his girls while they were working. I mean, he really treasured his mammographers and his industry of taking care of women's health with breast health. He's strong on his studies and, as far as teaching, but the admiration of that, him as a doctor would take care of his techs with physical therapists who would check in on them, watch them every 3 months, making sure their structure was good. I dreamed of going to work with that guy, but that didn't happen. So I just tried to take care of myself, and that did happen. So I'm very happy to say that, but this is why I bring this to women, and I bring this to the workplace, and I bring this to corporate and leaders, because this has never been really acknowledged. And the biggest thing about that we dive in today is that the hormonal effects that affect us, because if I am not, yeah, I'm not mistaken. Women get carpal tunnel 3 times more than men do. And that is just unbelievable because, especially with today's modernized world and technology, we are totally, going to be on those uh, typing boards, using our fingers, plucking at all these different things. And so there needs to be some type of physical therapy that should be adjusted and added into this policy so that long term, futuristically, it's not that we're blaming the workplace on the destruction that takes place, but as I develop this conversation in liberating menopause, the more I see, the more, and no policies have ever been created to bring this conversation out, is that we need to take care of our bodies everywhere we go. And, in the workplace, it should be important that they support that. I mean, not only is their industry losing because they're paying for the insurance that's going to support you to get this coverage, surgery, and everything that you need. And there are good statistics to that. We'll talk about that next time. But for right now, it's really bringing and taking you into that future proofing for women so that the future generations don't have to relive the things that we're going through today. And that specifically is that carpal tunnel because it's really a big syndrome. And, workplaces, again, they rarely acknowledge this unique challenge. And because as we advance in this technology, more women, they have to use those keyboards. And so there are different kind of keyboards that can replace that and give us more comfort in those moments in time. And that's what the future proofing of women's health is all about. So the physical therapy for typing, that profession, um, industries, they are built on this constant typing, right? And the repetitive hand movements and all this stuff starts to build up. I don't even know if workplaces support hand and wrist, um, what do you call those sleeves that you wear like a glove so that you could help give you some support on your hands, or otherwise we have to go buy them for ourselves because it is our hand, right? But preventative hand straightening exercises, occupational and physical therapy, these programs could become standards. I mean, that could really benefit to maintain, and especially if they're already working in a healthcare industry where you can have access to that a little easier. you know um, our health is so important. And as we want to live longer, as I was saying, it's the quality, because we don't want to be in our 70s and we can't even remember or recognize things that are in our own home. So again, bringing this stuff to you and talking about, because we have estrogen fluctuations, which are going to affect a lot of the inflammation, the tissue building, different things that stress our bodies. And these are important factors for the future, whether they're new generations coming in or you're in perimenopause right now and you want to get a grip of this, because by the time menopause comes, that last day when it's over and you step out, honestly, when you go into a retirement world, not a lot of women stop to just defrost. I mean, you really have to defrost this new world because there's going to be so many ailments that you passed through that didn't acknowledge, but they still exist. And now, for that 1 year while you're regrouping and figuring yourself out, it's like a gap year for retirement. You can feel some different aches and pains and different challenges that the body's going to bring to you. And I know this because I had a few. I mean, they weren't too bad, and I was really lucky for that because I thought I was doing great, always on my feet, right? But then, no, I had to build more leg muscle and things like that because of all the wear and tear that I did have. I never had to have any replacements or anything. Very happy for that. But that does take place in the healthcare system a lot. The circulation problems, a lot of these things really affect us. So there's all benefits to certain movements and things that we do, but really by doing the exercises, keeping our bodies going, checking out the future of where you're sitting today, what that job looks like, and look up statistics to see um, what cons are against that. There's pros and there's cons to everything. So let's talk about the impact impact of the digital screens, that eyesight, that blue light, the glasses for eye protection. This is something else that really should become standard, whether they start to bring technology into glass eyewear that we do wear already, that can be added, like they put that sun tint in there so that it turns into sunglasses for when we're outside. But maybe they can do something with that blue light glasses for when we're indoors and we're constantly on that computer. We have to protect our vision, our eyesight. That blue light, schedule screen breaks. I mean, there should be, and I mean really schedule the breaks, because they say that we get breaks. Next thing you know, we've been working nonstop, and we get our hour lunch. That's the break. But really, if you stop to take that 15-minute break, they'd be looking at you like, "What are you doing?" I mean, even though you're supposed to get those 15, right? Honestly, I don't really see that it happens all the time, because I know in my medical field, it didn't, not a lot for me anyway, in our departments that I've been at. Again, and it's not like you could take that extra 15 minutes to add on to your hour lunch. So, taking these into policies and really making them happen for women, because this is so important. They have a big life in this world to do. So it's not only being in that workplace, but, going home and being in position to have the strength and energy and vitality to carry on the work at home. All these things changed when women came into the workplace. Other than that, they were always at home, taking care of the house, the children, balancing, working, movements, because they were cleaning up, they were doing everything. And it was until after that things started to really change for women. So that mental mind garden. This month is, if I'm not mistaken, mental health. And it's very important because there's not enough mind gardens happening, and women taking the moment to really break down and sit down and hold still and listen to themselves and listen to nothing, even though it sounds so noisy. But in time, with practice, you'll begin to feel what that energy really is when you're trying to get in touch with that other side of the mind. It's all back there and it's all in there. It's just so covered up like a helmet full of all this stuff. And little by little in meditation, you could unplug those other noises and just relax, to feel you, to see. When you're driving in your car, I know my father, he was a mechanic, so he would always tell me, you have to shut the radio off once in a while and just listen, because if something's making noise on the car, how are you going to hear that? So I would do as he asked, and yes, you shut off the radio and you listen. And that's exactly what we need to do, because there is another sound of beautiful harmony in that silence. It really is golden, especially as far as bringing it into your health. The balance. I mean, we need to live in balance and really harmony, in that peacefully aging harmony as we walk forward into our future. So that mental mind garden, however you can find it, it's so important to get away and try to plant your mind someplace to capture some type of music from the birds outside, or some type of perfume from somebody doing as they cut the grass. The gardeners, oh my gosh, when you smell that, that's just the perfume of the earth, just trying to relax you. Just aromatherapy, pretty much, very much aromatherapy. Now let's talk about the hearing, because not only hearing, I mean, everybody's on the phones. That's, if you're not on the phones, you're reading it off the screens. But looking at with the phone situation, outside of the fact that, you know, different voices can be toxic depending what's on the other end of the phone. But that phone management for the younger generation, relying heavily. I don't think, or I've never heard, honestly, I haven't heard at all about audio health that takes place for the future generations that are in this position right now. I have a lot of friends that work on the phone, and they really don't discuss that. Anybody's really sent them to go have hearing testing. So this is something else that I think should be developed in a program with policies. Because if you came in and now You're going to start using that phone for a couple of years at least or whatever. You want to have a baseline of what you're hearing, thoughts, how the sound affects you and what ranges you're in so that there's a guide. Because how would you know if you're losing it? I mean, of course, until we go deaf completely, we know, right? Or when you have to keep saying, what'd you say? But outside of that, I mean, checking these things is so important. And I'm bringing you this all because of working in the medical field, knowing there's so much that we can do today with technology to help support us in the workplace so that the future doesn't look so damaging. And again, when it comes to our hormone health, going through these changes is so important. Understanding there's a lot of fluctuations. Men, they don't really have any fluctuations. So they kind of, get through all that. But we have the connective tissue that we have to work about, you know, depending on what the levels are at with your hormones, there's a laxivity issue that takes place in the tissue. I mean, pretty much your ligaments and things like that. But you're not thinking about that because nobody ever brought that. Hey, this could be hormonally induced. That's why the pain becomes worse for women. Fluid retention. This is a nerve compression. This can really affect women so much, and muscle strength and fatigue, depending on, the fluctuations. And again, different hormones. This isn't a hormone class, but I'm telling you, these things are happening to women all the time because of these fluctuations. So men, they don't go through all that same stuff. Monthly, they have a lifelong path. And that's why women drop off the grid a lot more and, feel that they need to hide more so they can look more powerful. But honestly, being in a liberating mode in menopause, it all comes back to the speaking out and the really making our voices heard, because again, no change could ever take place if that does not happen. And it hasn't happened all these years because this hasn't been the issue of policies. And as I told you about that global management team that actually supports and sees what's happening for women in the last 10 years in their studies, this was never acknowledged as an issue. So by bringing this today, I know we have a long way to go to knock down walls, but this is just the start, and especially making us all aware as women that the key to future proofing women is is the key in the workplace because we've taken over the industry. So I'm really happy that I was able to bring this conversation to you. I really hope that this really gives you something to think about because there's a lot out there that has to change with this new structure because women are taking over the workplace and we need to change the structure that it's always focused just on men because men don't have a lot of development in life that challenges their lives and their health. One more thing I wanted to talk about was the desk raising. In radiology, those girls, they sit in desks all the time and they always have to be at that desk. But anywhere that there's a desk, office, someplace, those uplifting desks, that is so important today. And we know this now because of the different pelvic issues that women are having and incontinence and all this stuff. And somehow, some way, these little changes, what we do today, always accumulates for a better tomorrow. So I'm going to leave you with that so we can start accumulating that good stuff in so that we make it better tomorrow because we got a long life to live and we really want it to be with good quality. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Lisa Vasquez, your host, Liberating Menopause. Not a doctor, but I love bringing you great information and education because I want us all to lead this job life, walk into that really cool life that we have waiting for us. Next time we're going to be talking, we're going to be bringing in some visions. And do we really have visions as we're sitting at work? Do we really, have a plan for a purpose to do something else? And when did we plant that? Or are we even considering those seeds to be planted? Okay, everyone, take care. And, June's coming up. So getting ready for that summer. Have a great day. Thank you.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.